psychology today about the connection between, the concept of enlightenment and psychedelics, right? I'm just going to be reading this. I guess I'll give a bit of a background before. I really like this stuff, like all this kind of realm of things is very, like, I fall asleep to a lot of Ram Dass, a lot of, like, Terrence McKenna, a lot of, that kind of side of things, even though they're not really, anyway. I'm just going to be reading this and talking about it, and I find this stuff really interesting, and I have actually been watching less ASMR recently and more, I have no idea the class I would even put this in, but anyway, I just thought, why can't I mix it? Okay. We're gonna start. Okay. So, the article is called Psychedelics Gave a Glimpse of Enlightenment. And the heading is, Our brains may be filters that are inhibiting us from experiencing reality. Okay. Alright. There's a key points here. Let's read that real quick. Aldous Huxley postulated that psychedelics can turn off the filters in the brain that inhibit a higher reality. Psychedelics and meditation can induce a similar unitive state of consciousness. Physics says everything in the universe is instantly connected. Psychedelics and meditation can help that. I suppose they mean psychedelics and meditation can help realize that. Okay. In 1954, Aldous Huxley proposed the concept of the mind at large, which held that psychedelic drugs could disable filters in our minds that inhibited us from experiencing the fullness of reality. He said these filters reduced our experiences of life to a measly trickle. Once the filters were removed, we could experience the higher reality of the mind at large, which was the experience of receiving everything that is happening everywhere at once. All at once. Okay? I'm going to speak about this a little bit because it's something that really confuses me. A lot of times in physics circles, I hear a lot about time being not how we perceive it, but that's not how it is. What does that even mean? The idea that everything is happening all at once. It's all the same moment, right? That's really, that does not make sense to me. It makes sense to me on some levels, right? But just my mind is just like, what are you talking about, dude? That doesn't even make any sense, right? But I'm sure we've all had experiences. We're gonna keep reading this, and then we'll get into that later. Okay. Could our brains actually be filters and reducing valves that are inhibiting us from experiencing a higher reality? Does this idea make sense with what science tells us happens to the brain on psychedelics or during meditation? Is this mind at large experience even theoretically possible according to modern physics? The answer to all these questions is yes. Okay. Whoa, okay. Psychedelics and ego dissolution. In a 2021 study utilizing functional MRI scans, researchers found that LSD untethers functional connectivity from the constraint of structural connectivity. Normally, the brain's connectivity is filtered and inhibited by relatively fixed neural networks based on the brain structure. But the main author of the study, Andrea Lupi, explained that LSD decoupled that structural relationship, allowing the brain to be less constrained than usual by the presence or absence according to these MRI scans. Okay. Loopy's study found that the subjective experience of losing one's sense of self while on LSD, a phenomenon known as ego dissolution, was associated with a state of high global brain integration. Ego dissolution is often experienced as feeling at one with the universe. As Michael Pollan writes in his book about psychedelics, How to Change Your Mind. Okay. Consider the case of the mystical experience, the sense of transcendence, sacredness, unitive consciousness, infinitude, and blissfulness people report can all be explained as what it can feel like to a mind when its sense of being or having a separate self is suddenly no more. Is it any wonder we would feel at one with the universe when the boundaries between world and self, that the ego patrols suddenly fall away? That is a really interesting thing, because, like intellectually, or like logically, right? I mean, I've changed my mind about this, and I'm sure I will again, right? But, the whole universe is connected, right? It's like duh, right? Like the idea of a separate being is just, not true, right? For example, my value systems, my desire systems, my everything that I think makes me me is, a lot of it is like social programming, and the culture that I was raised in, the movies I watched, the religion that I practiced, and things like that. And then we have this where I'm gonna start parroting some other people right now. There was this Ram Dass lecture. He was at Danbury Prison, I believe, in the 1970s, and he was explaining I think it was the Buddhist belief system, that these are his, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said this, not me, right? That our DNA is like lessons we need to learn, and it makes a little bit of sense, but not really. Like, we have to work out our karma, is what he said. I don't even know how we accumulate karma. Any comments are very, very helpful, okay, and appreciated on this video. Okay. Neurophysiology of ego dissolution during meditation and psychedelics. Are the measured changes in brain physiology that occur during psychedelic-induced ego dissolution similar to what happens in the brains of long-term meditators when they experience a transcendent unitive state? In a review article entitled A Systematic Review of Transcendent States Across Meditation Contemplative Traditions, the authors analyze studies done by practitioners of a variety of meditation traditions, Buddhist, Christian practitioners from multiple traditions, Vedic and yoga. They found that during transcendent states described by the meditators as a unitive, ineffable state of consciousness, the meditators had very high levels of EEG coherence and functional neuroconnectivity. The results are similar to neurophysiological changes observed by Loopy's group during ego dissolution experiences. I have had ego dissolution experiences, and it says right here, described by meditators as a unitive, ineffable state of consciousness. Yep, it is definitely ineffable. Oh, it's so interesting how everything makes sense for a second. Like it is a hallucinogen, right? So it could be that you're just hallucinating, right? You're just like crazy while you're on it, right? But I don't think so. Part of me believes that, part of me is like, maybe something bigger is going on here. Anyway, for a second after as this article is articulating that, the ego is dissolved, right? Then everything kind of makes sense. And, this is going to sound so interesting. I'm just rambling here, okay? But it felt like after my ego had dissolved, that my ego was one of the things that held me back from being happy. It was one of the things that held me back from being peaceful. It was what held me back, But then I always came back, into this, into the ego, right? And sitting here now, I can't even tell you what that means, what the ego is. I can say it from I don't really know, right? But in that moment, years ago, I had that experience of being like, wow, this is the problem. My sense of separateness is the problem. It was a deeply not religious, I would say spiritual experience. And I go to church, often, not often, sometimes, right? When my girlfriend makes me, right? And I just don't feel that same. I don't hear things that resonate with that experience I had, and I feel like that experience I had is more true to me than what someone else can say to me. Okay, there is a summary here. Let's read it. In summary, psychedelics appear to be able to temporarily remove filters in the mind. Right. I was just about to say something about this. So, I was watching a YouTube video last night. I should say listening. And it was called The Connection Between Psychedelics and Enlightenment. And they were talking about how psychedelics are like a temporary enlightenment, and how meditation's really like the only way to get there, that is sustainable. That is a really fine point, sustainable, right? Because if you play too much with your ego while you're not ready for it, it can have terrible effects. You really got to be careful with this stuff, Okay, I have another one here. It is called Redefining Psychology in the Light of Quantum Physics. I'm just going to skim this here. Okay, this is about to get trippy. The 3 pillars of quantum physics. The first principle state that the collapse of an object's wave function requires a conscious observer. Secondly, let's just talk about that for a second. What? Why does it? The collapse of an object's wave function requires a conscious observer. Why? That doesn't make sense to me, bruh. I really wish I knew everything. things that we would think of as non-sentient, not alive, not conscious, react to being perceived. That's really strange. Okay. Secondly, quantum physics contends that the universe is interconnected in its entirety and instantaneously, leaving no room for separateness. Lastly, it posits that our reality is observer-dependent. That's also really weird, man. Really strange stuff there. This quantum phenomenon implies that everything in our universe, before being consciously reserved, is a wave function teetering on the edge of possibility. Our universe, right from its inception during the Big Bang, has relied on conscious observation for its very existence. What the frick, man? That's what? Oh. The universe exists because we are aware of it. What is this? What does that even mean, man? So, what are the implications of that in my life? What does that mean, bruh? That is a really hard thing for me to understand. Okay. It's trying to help me understand. Now we're going to read it together. Okay. This quantum concept of conscious observation and wave function collapse may seem esoteric. That is how it seems to me. However, by examining what occurs during a dream, which traditionally is within the domain of psychology, we arrive at an analogy that helps us make sense of this quantum weirdness. Imagine yourself dreaming, relishing a scoop of creamy chocolate ice cream in your local Baskin-Robbins. In this dream, your avatar, through a representation of you, is contingent upon the real you, the observer, or the subject. So, in this analogy, is the real you the observer or the subject? Okay, let's keep reading. When you stop observing your dream avatar, perhaps by waking up, both the dream avatar and the ice cream disappear, returning to a state akin to a virtual wave function. Okay, that's weird, man. Okay. The dream exists because we are aware of it. We are like the dreamer who dreams and lives in the dream. This is true of the entire universe. This is why it is said, having created the creation, the creator entered into it. This is so trippy. What the hell? Okay. I really hope you guys are enjoying this. If I were watching this video, I'd probably be asleep by now. I feel like this is enough. This material is interesting enough that it would keep me, my mind listening instead of talking, Okay. Quantum entanglement, a repeatedly verified quantum physical phenomena, is an instant linkage between all entities in the universe. This pervasive interconnectedness makes sense with the notion that our universe is composed of a unified singular consciousness, making the apparent separateness an illusion. Quantum physics has been struggling with the philosophical ramification of this lack of separateness or non-duality. From the very beginning, our Erwin Schrödinger, back in 1944 in his book, What is Life? With Mind and Matter, wrote, subject and object are only one. The barrier between them cannot be said to have broken down, for this barrier does not exist. You know what this reminds me of? You guys know the concept of the miasma, or the barrier, the cloud. What is coming to my head right now is in the Percy Jackson again. Yeah, in the Percy Jackson series. Okay, there is a magical force that blinds mortals to what's really going on. Anyway. Okay, noted French theoretical physicist Bernard de Espagnat. I'm saying that wrong. I don't know French names. I'm sorry if you're French. Please correct me. Stated that the doctrine that the world is made up of objects whose existence is independent of human consciousness turns out to be a conflict with quantum mechanics and the facts established by experiment. Quantum theory tells us that the reality of the physical world depends somehow on our observation of it. That's very weird to me. Okay. I think it's really interesting how this is spiritual, the blending of, the sciences and, spiritual, ideas, I guess. I think that's really cool that that's happened in the past, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years. I feel like it didn't used to be that way, at least in my perception of things, right? But maybe my perception of it is why it was that way, and my perception of it, right? Because according to this, okay, if I perceive the world as a bad place, then to me it is a bad place, and that is a true reality. That is my subjective reality, right? But if I felt it was good, then it would be good, because I'm perceiving it that way. I could be getting that wrong. But guys, hey, thank you so much for joining me on this. I hope that you're asleep, or I hope that you enjoyed listening to this. Let's start a conversation about this. Tomorrow will be a regular video. Okay. I love you all. Sleep good. Okay. And vibe. Make sure to vibe. Vibing is very important. Okay. Bye.